You're listening to The Score, a podcast for Valley sports enthusiasts.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Score podcast as we come to you a week before the high school football season begins. When the calendar turns to August, that means high school football is right around the corner. Happy to be joined by local sports historian Champ Summers and DJ Yokley, the founder of YSN. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
So let's talk high school football. 15 coaching changes from 2024. That's about a third of the coaches here in the Mahoning Valley. And some guys coming back, some guys calling it quits, and some young guys stepping in.
Well, I've never been a high school football coach, so I don't know what the motivation is, whether it's talent or school conditions, maybe facilities. But some have gone to other schools. I'm curious how many brand new head coaches there are, but it seems to be a pattern lately. More and more each year, it seems we have more new coaches.
In 2024, we only had 6, so a big change from 2025, 13 back in 2023. DJ?
Yeah, I think there's different rigors that coaches have to deal with nowadays, not just in football, but in all sports. There's a different set of expectations in 2025 than there was even in 2005. So there's a commitment level that parents and communities expect, and coaches aren't getting paid necessarily the millions and millions of dollars that they should be.
One of the big changes from the offseason to 2025 is the playoffs. 16 teams per region. It has now dropped to 12, with the first 4 in that region getting a first-round bye. I've talked to many coaches, mixed feelings on both ends of this.
Yeah, looking at the stats, over the last 4 years, as we've had the top 16, the teams are 2-18. The 2 wins are both by Mooney. They were outscored 712 to 182. That's an average score of 40 to 10. So I think it was a good thing because there's a lot of blowouts, and that doesn't really help the high school football playoffs when you go to 16.
And in the history of this, we've only had 1 16 and I believe 2 15 win when it was 16 teams.
Which was the surprising part, because I figured once that 16 seed won, we'd never see anything different. But if you think back, and depending on who you talk to, 12 teams was perfect from the jump with all football coaches. This is what they thought they were getting when they had the original conversation. And to their surprise, it was 16 teams. So I know there's a lot of teams and coaches that are really excited about the 12. And, to be able to kind of make that playoff feel special again, and not everybody gets in if you get a win, it's going to be awesome to see here this year.
Is 12 the magic number, though?
I think so. I really do.
In the last 4 years, only one double-digit seed made it to the Final Four. That was Springfield down by the Dayton area. They were the 12th seed. So we even had a double-digit seed make it to the Final Four.
I just think 8 seemed to be that number. You can make a mistake, and maybe a second mistake and still get in. But the coaches that I've talked to seems like the older the coach is, they want 8, the younger 12, because they want to get in the postseason.
Yeah, and I think it really helps the Division I, Region I, where they had, where you were winning one game, and there were 17 teams, and 16 of those teams make the playoffs. So I think it really helps in that category.
Let's get to NIL. 38 states in the United States have some form of NIL, including Pennsylvania, but Ohio, West Virginia, and Indiana do not. This was on the ballot, I think, 3 or 4 years ago in Ohio, and the principals voted, and this soundly was rejected. Right. I asked the executive director, Doug Ute, does he anticipate this coming back up for a vote? And his answer was plain: it's not even on the back burner. So that tells me it's not even being discussed. Does Ohio need NIL?
No. I just think it's name, image, and likeness, and this all started from Ed O'Bannon back in college, where his UCLA team, he was watching a video game with his kids. He says, "Wow, that's my team. That's me. That's a left-handed shooter, 6'7", bald." And when he found out how much the video game cost, they had a class action suit, and they won, and they lost in the Supreme Court when they tried to apply that.
I mean, we've kind of seen what it has done to college. I don't think we need it at the high school level.
I guess the question is, does Ohio need it? No. Will they get it? Probably, because you look at what college, everybody said no, and then all of a sudden it takes one stone to start falling down the hill and to gather speed, and everybody wants it because everybody has it. I think the problem is the NIL has been the toothpaste that's out of the tube and you can't put it back. So I think it's inevitable at some point that Ohio will get it. How and when, I don't know. But I think there's also a an assumption that every student athlete's worth $300,000, and it's just not the case. Some athletes, I know I'm going to make a lot of people mad, aren't worth the pizza a week. You know what I mean? I don't think I would ever be in a position to say, no, you can't make money for the talents that you have, because I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me. But it's also a situation where I think there's so much money out there that people put towards sports, and you're one injury away from losing everything.
With that being said, though, we're 5 miles from Pennsylvania. I don't see kids from Ohio jumping the state line to go play in Pennsylvania.
No, and I think only the national recruits are going to be affected. The blue chippers in high school that can go anywhere they want, and they're going to make probably decent money. But most of them, I say 95% of them, I don't think that, like he said, I don't think it's going to be worth a pizza for most of them.
I mean, I don't foresee it coming in the next 5 years. I may be completely wrong on this, but I think the state is adamant about not even putting it before the principals to vote, because it went down better than 2-1 4 years ago. Again, does it come up? We'll just have to wait and see, but I hope it kind of stays away until whenever. 20 years ago, artificial turf was the thing for high school football. Now, in Ohio, in our Tri-County area, last check, 36 of the 44 teams will now play on turf.
Really?
So that means, what, 8 teams are playing on the natural surface. That has changed the game, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'll have to start keeping track of the records of the teams on grass and non-grass.
And the two new ones this year are West Branch and Brookfield, who are getting turf. Another topic, 8-man football. We saw another local team across the state line, Kennedy Catholic, go to 8-man. Is 8-man something we're going to see for some of these Division 7 schools that are struggling to put 11 players on the field?
I think it's obviously there's a lot of teams that need to do that. A lot of schools need to do that. And I think that once they go over the stigma of just playing 8 instead of 11, I think you're going to see a lot of the smaller schools start to do that. And they should, because it's still about playing football. And it's still football. And like you said, when you mentioned earlier, when you go to a practice field, you can't tell if they're playing regular or 8-man football.
I think it's a great idea. Sebring has been in it now 3 years. Chalker is in it. Kennedy Catholic will join it this year. And if you remember, Kennedy Catholic across the state line a year ago could not finish the season because they didn't have enough players. DJ, you cover a lot of schools, in Columbiana County. Yeah. Is this something that some of these schools are considering or at least looking at?
The conversations that I've heard and the rumors and all the whispers are, yes, 8-man football is at the topic of conversation, but it's also flag football. And I know we've had this conversation before. You look at what, they just implemented the OHSAA girls flag football. Boys flag football is incredibly popular. I mean, all you got to do is go down the road to Canton. You see the national championships, the world championships in Canton. The big to-do about that is they don't want to pull away from naturally their own football teams to do that in the fall, but they also don't want to ruin baseball and track and the spring sports to do it in the springtime. I think flag football will continue to be more popular than 8-man football because there's less injuries, there's less expenses with it, but I can see 8-man football being a transition to getting to flag at some point.
I think 8-man is the right way to go because there's some athletes out there who may not be able to play 8-man football or football as we know, normal football, and can relate to flag football. Again, talking to the coach at Sebring, Anthony Agresta, I mean, they're going to use 8-man football at the junior high level this year and play as a schedule. So I think as more teams, as more programs become involved, and the toughest thing is making that commitment to it. But the question comes out, would you rather have 8-man football or no football at all?
Well, I look at the example of whoever heard of pickleball 4 years ago, and it's very popular now. Once you start playing it, and once they start doing it, and more schools are doing it, I think it's become very popular with some of the small schools.
To double on that, I think that there's an option there for some teams, because if your school doesn't have a sport, such as football, you can go to the neighboring district to do it. And I think that you're going to see some of these smaller schools implement that rule. I mean, we see it with Heartland Christian already. I think you're going to see it elsewhere. And I think schools are going to look at the bottom line. They're going to look at the red and the black, and they're going to say, okay, we can do away with it completely. and it becomes somebody else's problem. And I think that's what they're looking at instead of, okay, well, we can dilute football, because that's what they see 8-man football as. It's not real football, it's diluted, which I think is not the right way to look at it. But again, I'm not the one paying those bills.
Sure. And again, if you look at 8-man football, NC bring Chalker. I've gone to a couple of games. Last year, Chalker played an afternoon game. There was a better crowd there than I've seen at some normal high school games. So congratulations to those schools. And maybe next year at this time, there'll be a couple more playing 8-man. Real quick, what's right with Ohio? What's right with high school football in Ohio?
I think what's right is the way they figure out the computer rankings. I think they're top notch. I think it's a model for other states to follow. I think it's fantastic. It's very simple. And I think that they've kept it this long, and it's going strong. It's been going since what, 72, and now they got one from 16 back to 12. But to me, it's the way they rank these teams through the computer. The computer rankings are the strength of Ohio football.
And the strength of schedule, absolutely.
Yep.
It's a tradition. It's a religion in some families. When you talk about high school football in the state of Ohio, nationally they'll compare us to Texas and Florida, in California, and these Pennsylvania as well. I don't want to leave them out. But it's one of those situations where we always are behind the 8 ball with changing traditions and making sure that we're keeping this at the forefront and revolutionizing and evolving the game, because I think we get behind everybody and then we look around what we're doing, what everybody else is doing, and then we pick and choose. I think that's what's great about Ohio is we're still kind of in that leader position, that pole position, but we're fading quickly.
Champ, you're a stats guy. Obviously, no Division I schools in this area. That's been 4 or 5 years now. We have 3 in Division II with Fitch-Boardman and Harding. The majority of our schools are the lower divisions. Do we have too many divisions?
Well, I think you could look at some of the schools. I mean, the Warren schools did it. I mean, they merged. I think it's time maybe they have those discussions, but they have such intense rivalries, very parochial down in Columbiana, that I don't know if they're going to ever have 2 schools get together. But it's something to look at. But also you have the option of the 8-man football too, if on the case. But yeah, absolutely.
DJ, down in Columbiana County, a lot of schools. Lisbon, 1996, last team to win a state championship. Is it time maybe for some of those districts to kind of say, hey?
Man, it goes back to when I went to high school. You kept hearing whispers of this school and this school is going to combine if the numbers keep going down. But that was, I graduated in 03 from high school, so that was over 20 years ago. Those whispers are still there. It's still the same people. I don't think it's necessary. I think there's a lot of pride and tradition in every single school. I think there's a lot of ego in every single school as well. To combine schools is going to have to be a state mandate, because they're going to lose funding or X, Y, or Z. The numbers are pretty much as low as they can get in some of these schools, and they're dancing on having teams and having seasons. Would I like to see it? No, because I love seeing, especially in my county, it's the Spaghetti Bowl, Latonia and Lisbon. It's East Palestine versus Columbiana. And I just don't think there's a lot of people that would be able to swallow a name change or a district change at this point, because they still have their Letterman jackets hanging 30 years later.
Are conference championships kind of by the wayside now?
It's hard for me to keep track every year. I have to have a pencil every year to change it. But back to the situation. I mean, you look at divisions 5, 6, and 7. They're dominated by the Midwest Athletic Conference. Okay, but that shouldn't take away what we do locally here. I mean, we struggled a lot of times to get state champions in this area, but it's still really good football. And maybe the conference, winning a conference title, is the best thing they can do, is to turn to winning a state title. It's very difficult for those small schools to do it.
I know when I go to interview coaches, 25 years ago is, we want to win our league and then we'll see what happens with the playoffs. And DJ, I don't hear that a lot now. Now it's, we need to get to the playoffs.
I guess in order for conferences to be relevant, you have to know who's in your conference. And some of these kids are traveling 40 miles to play one school to another. There's no background. There's no rivalry there. They don't know who they're playing until they get there. And a lot of times you're adjusting on the fly. Huddle and tape and technology has been great, but there has to be a passion. To be able to play someone in your backyard that you've played since you were 5 years old in t-ball and mush ball still means something. And I think we still need to get back to those days of playing people that you've been playing the entire time, and your dad's played and your grandpa's played, all that.
But that goes back to scheduling, the Harbin system for computer rankings.
Yeah.
Hubbard and Brookfield played forever. They
Yeah.
just resumed the series again. But there's teams out there that I agree should be playing each other. Speaking of schedules, credit to Cardinal Mooney, Frank Colapret, playing Canfield, playing South Range this year.
Yeah, and one nice about the playoffs is you usually get matchups where these teams haven't played in the regular season ever in their history. So you get a lot of interesting matchups. And that's the nice thing about the playoffs. But I think rivalries are so important in high school football. Neighborhood, backyard. I mean, Bourbon and Mooney, where I lived, it was Bourbon, Mooney. And we talk a lot about Fitch and Bourbon, but it's still Bourbon, Mooney as far as I'm concerned, rivalries.
Let's talk about some of the teams. Let's begin in Division II, Austintown Fitch. TJ Parker has never missed the playoffs in 5 years.
Yeah, 5 straight playoff seasons. Their last losing season was 2007. And what's interesting, because it's the first time since 2018 that Fitch, Harding, and Bourbon all made the postseason, which was nice because those are our 3 largest schools.
Boardman, first winning season. Their first winning season, 6-5 since 2018. They have not won 7 games since 2011.
I'll give credit to DJ because last year he said Bourbon was going to be good, and I was freaking out. I went home and I told my neighbor, I said, Bourbon's going to be good, baby. Thanks very much. That was DJ's call. I'll give him credit.
Again, a program that, Division II program, play a heck of a schedule. Warren Harding, they have 4 former head coaches on their staff. Greg Lazari, Chet Allen, Derek Bush, Kevin Kyler, and Devion Smith, who played at Michigan in the USFL, was part of that staff as well. This is a program that I think could be pretty good because Richardson now in year 2 have some players under their belt and have that system in place.
6 of the last 7 years they've made the postseason. Their problem is they're in Division II, Region 5, which is brutal. I mean, ever heard of Akron-Hoban?
Sure.
But yeah, they're almost a guarantee to make the playoffs with that tough schedule. But they got a good squad, and give them credit for that schedule.
In Division III, Ursuline 47-10 over the last 5 years. Dan Reardon has the system in place. I think Dan is the longest tenured coach in Mahoning County.
Wow.
Since coming back to Ursuline. Let's go to Cheney and Cheney. The last season for football, they did this before 2011, I think, 2018. Now we're going to have one high school in East. Good, bad idea. I know that's an administration, but you're getting rid of a program that you got rid of before that is very, very historic in this area in Cheney.
Yeah, the good news at 3 and 6 they made the playoffs. The bad news they had to play Ursuline right off the bat. But they had, it's a different situation. In fact, I wasn't even sure if East and Cheney would be listed this year. I guess that's till next year. Sure. But yeah, give them credit. They play a decent schedule every year. But it's always good to see a Cheney Cowboy at least listed somewhere.
Sure, and DJ, obviously, I would assume both head coaches want to move on to that Youngstown, what's the nickname?
The Defenders.
Defenders.
Yeah.
So it's these guys are auditioning for this.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of pride with this season, and I think it's easy to have kind of those motivational speeches this year because you're doing it for the last time. Whichever jersey color you're wearing, you're doing it for the last time, and people will remember this. And not that, but we've seen this movie before. They came back before. Will they come back again if the numbers meet where they need to go? I think that when you look at the coaching staffs, you're right, Dana. They are auditioning. I hope that there's a game plan in place already so it doesn't turn into who has the most wins at the end of the season gets the gig. But both of these traditionally rich programs, historic programs, have a lot to be proud of, and we're looking forward to the future as well.
I think one of the surprises from last year, Canfield had their first losing season since 2013, and I know the Canfield people probably want to see improvement there.
There's a team to watch because, like you said, they're not used to losing, and it was a tough year for them. But that's a team to watch. It could be the comeback team of the year, Canfield.
Howland 1-19 in the last 2 seasons. They open up against Niles in that rivalry game, which you guys talked about.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Howland does this year. They were in a lot of games last year, right? And that's where you start. And you can watch half of the video for half of the year and realize that Howland is a team that could be, when you talk about Canfield bouncing back, I could see Howland becoming a program once again.
Their opponent in week 1 is Niles. Niles struggled last year, only scored 48 points.
Yeah, and they beat Niles in their open and then lost their last 9 games last year. They're 5-35, Howland is, in the last 5 years, so they're really struggling. Their last non-COVID playoff win was 2010. So they're another program, high school, that's due to bounce back.
Brian Hoffman at Hubbard, 19 seasons, 14 playoff years. He's added the title as athletic director now as well. So that's a program that, again, has been at the tip and had a little down, but I think they're on their way back up.
Yeah, they started 4-0 last year and then finished 1-5, and they obviously struggled and got eliminated in the first round. They were the 13th seed, so under the new format, they would not have made the playoffs.
I think the surprise team last year for a lot of people was Struthers. A new coach now. Last 3 years, 26-12 under John Beck, and now a new beginning.
Yeah, they lost in the playoffs 3-0 to Perry. Tough loss. Yes. But they also had an injury to their quarterback in the season. Tough injury against a team that they probably, I don't know why they played that team, but yeah, they're a program that is traditionally now good every season, and looking forward to the Wildcats.
West Branch, the last 3 years, Tim Cooper, 34-5. What can you say about that?
They score like crazy. And during the regular season last year, they scored a Tri-County high in points, 431. They also allowed an area's low of only 67 points. Tremendous offense, good defense, had a good playoff run, but that's a team that's really played well in the last 4 or 5 years.
DJ, we're heading down to your way. Mike McKenzie at Beaver Local suffered his first losing season last year, and Paul Cusick, 2 years at the East Liverpool, 2 playoff appearances.
Yeah, you look at what Beaver Local has been able to do under Coach McKenzie. He's got the tradition back. He's got the program back. He's got a quarterback this year in Wade Foster that I think is going to be a playmaker. We're going to be saying his name a lot. And you look at what Coach Cusick did. I mean, there were a lot of people that were just scratching their head because they've never seen Paul Cusick in anything but black and gold. He walks down, and I'm pretty sure they're ready to build a statue of Paul Cusick after the season they had last year.
Let's go to D5. Cardinal Mooney. They've been in the playoffs, I think, the last 3 years, but their last winning season was 2017. They have a new coach now in Frank Colaprete, an alumnus there, and he told me, wants to instill a new system. Actually said last year, they played well, just didn't have that final piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, and their schedule has a combined 18 state championships on it. Okay, it's not as tough as Ursuline's, it's got 28. But they only play one Division V school this year, and it's South Range. Mm-hmm. So good luck with that.
And again, it's good to see those two programs getting together. Champion, last playoff appearance, 1994. That is the longest streak going. Girard, 8 straight years they've gone to the playoffs.
When you talk about Girard, you're talking about I think this is the sleeper of the year. I think when people talk about Girard, they're used to one particular team, and this is how we do it. We saw in years past, they're going to spread things out. They're going to throw the ball a lot, but they're going to be ultra physical. They've got a couple kids that came into Girard this year that are going to make huge impacts very quickly.
Lakeview, their last winning season, 2017. Ron DeJulio Jr., first-time head coach.
Yeah, I think they're going to do a lot better this year. They're in that tough conference, though, very tough conference, and so they got their work cut out for them. But I know they're looking forward to this season.
Liberty, new coach in Don Perloga, won 5 of their last 7 games, and you could just sense a different atmosphere when you go to Liberty.
I think with Dom, I think there's a sense of family, tradition, and proving everybody wrong. I mean, there were a couple of jobs that he wanted, and this is where he landed. And I think he is going to really be able to rally everybody around him and put Liberty back on the map.
I think Liberty could be a sleeper. I think another team that can do very, very well is Poland. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to win a state championship, but this is a team last year where they had a lot of no names, and those kids stepped up. They won a couple of playoff games. Pavlansky's done a great job there, 34-15 over 4 years.
Yeah, 6 straight postseason appearances with a very impressive 10-6 playoff record. So they're one of those teams that when the playoffs start, they can be very dangerous.
South Range. Now, they haven't lost in the league since 2019. They lost to Niles. I think it was week 5. 36 straight league wins. I think that comes to an end this year.
19 wins in a row on the road, 18 straight victories in the regular season. Playoff record since 17, 23-6, 11 unbeaten regular seasons since 99. This is a stud program. And it's going strong.
Young and eager. Just remember that.
They are very young, and I think that could be the Achilles heel for them. They're a veteran team, but not as veteran as his past teams. Toy's a quarterback. Mm-hmm. They're a young team. They've been tested because a lot of these kids have played extra games.
Different Toy, by the way.
But yeah, this is another one. But I think that streak comes to an end. I think there's some teams in the Northeast or in the
Northeast
Northeast
eight,
8 or Northeast 7, whatever it is. Again, we don't know.
Great
leagues.
conference.
But I think that streak comes to an end this year. Maybe not one loss, but 2 losses.
Ooh.
Wow.
Division 6, Brookfield. We talked about Randy Clark, 21 years there. They have the new turf. They open up with Hubbard, next week.
Yeah, they had 5 straight playoff seasons ended last year, 3 to 7 years. So look for them to bounce back because it's a traditional program. They're in the playoffs usually every year, and he's done a great job there.
David Porch, one of the new 15 head coaches, one of the very first in his first year at Camel. Their last winning season back in 2011 under Mickey Sikora.
They've missed the postseason 13 times last 14 seasons. They made it in the COVID year, 2020. Their last winning season was 2012. They were 6-4. Their last playoff win was 2010.
Columbiana, Bob Spade, 32nd year, the longest tenured coach in the Tri-County area.
Never count out Spader. Ever. I mean, I've asked people, nobody seemingly knows what Columbiana has coming back, what do they have coming in. They are the biggest mystery on the YSN schedule right now of what they're going to be.
Don Perry, 2 playoff years at Crestview. He's 2 for 2 in making the playoffs at Crestview. LeBray, John Elliott has improved each year. Now in his 4th year, started 1-9, went 5-6 and 7-4.
That's 7 playoff seasons in 10 years. Very impressive. But yeah, they're a team now. They never used to think of LeBray as a football program. Now you have to think that way.
Mineral Ridge, all we have to say is Andy Haig.
That's my boy. He's got, 66 kids, 72 kids out there playing football right now. He's a program leader. And I think that the entire community is rallied around Andy at this point. A lot of eyes have traveled, obviously, to Mineral Ridge as well. And Andy's the kind of guy that welcomes it. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Successful at Western Reserve, successful at Valley. Can he be successful at his alma mater? Because history tells you it's very difficult to coach at your alma mater.
Yeah, but it's just fun having him around. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Newton Falls, last winning campaign was 2009, where Greg Lazari was the coach. He's now at Warren Harding as an assistant. Springfield, here's a program. Sean Guerrero, is now the athletic director, out of coaching. Adam Slopek, who was his right-hand man, takes over. I think this is a very interesting program. I think this is, you just don't know which way it's going to go.
Business as usual to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean's gone, but he's still in the building. Coach Slopek's been there. I mean, he's no puppy when it comes to understanding what the tradition is at Springfield. I think it's business as usual, and Springfield's another tough out in the schedule.
United Local, 5 straight playoff appearances. Again, very quietly, DJ Yokley does his job.
Yeah, they won their last 7 ball games to grab the number 5 seed. But their overall record the last 5 seasons is 41-7 in the regular season. Pretty impressive.
Valley Christian, Aaron Agresta, the new coach, takes over for Hake, who went over to Mineral Ridge. Valley Christian will have a fine facility in several years when they build that. But again, kind of flying under the radar this year.
It's interesting for Coach Agresta. He's a graduate of the school, so I think it means a little bit more for him. He's been under the tutelage of Andy, so he knows how to motivate those kids, no problem. And he's got his own little spin on it that I like. And I mean, he's one of those up-and-coming young coaches that if you're not following them on social media, you need to, because they're the real deal.
Division 7, DJ, we're East Palestine. Last winning season was back in 2017 at 8-3. Mike Dempster, I think, does a great job down there. Under the circumstances, going back to the train derailment and all that, he's made these kids focus. And I like the job he does.
It's funny because living there, I hear about what East Palestine lost, all the seniors they lost last year, but people don't realize what's coming in. They've got a quarterback in Clark Rutledge that is going to be dynamic, can throw the ball, can run the ball. He doesn't have the size of Owen Iriauchi that we're accustomed to seeing for the last few years, but Palestine's going to be different. You might as well just throw the last 4 years of game tape away because you're going to play a whole new Bulldog squad.
Jackson Milton, Brian Channer takes over. He told me, he goes, I don't care if I'm coaching at the biggest school, the smallest school, we're on the big stage.
Yeah, 2-0 start and lost their last 8 contests. So they're at school and they're moving down a division, so that's going to help them. But that's another school to watch to rebound from last season.
One of the teams that made one of the biggest jumps last year, I thought, was Warren JFK. Damon Bente went from 2-7 to 10-3.
9 of 10 playoff years, 26-8 playoff mark, and they rebounded very beautifully from 2 years ago.
Letonia, we talked about them. I mean, last 3 years they haven't won a game. Is 8-man in the future for them? Their last winning season, you got to go back to, I think, 2007 or 2008.
Yeah, and
Paul Julio was there.
They currently have the second longest active losing streak in the state of Ohio at 35. Toledo Woodward is at 41.
What's the feel there, DJ? I know we talked on it.
There's a lot of pride in Letonia. And there's a generation of Letonia Bears that they're, like I said before, their parents were Letonia Bears, that they want to be Letonia Bears, and they want to play 11-man football, regular football.
I guess the point is would you rather go out and play 11-man football and really lose 50-0 or go out and play 8-man and be competitive? I think that's the question that has to be asked for any community looking whether they want to make that.
And that's the best argument for going to 8-man football.
Lisbon, Bill Meek's second season, 3-6 last year.
Love it. Love what Lisbon is looking like this year. They've got some dudes in the backfield. They lost a lot, but Coach Meek has these kids believing, and when it comes to belief, that's all you need sometimes.
And Bill Meek Sr., not only coaching at Lisbon, but coaching with his son Eric at Steubenville Central Catholic. He's like 85 years old or 80 years old, so congratulations to him. Lowville, 5-year playoff run again, and new coach in Drew McLaughlin.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we saw that there was some a handoff and then another handoff in Louisville. Again, when it comes to pride, you don't have to go far in Louisville. I mean, they love, if you're a Rocket, you're a Rocket for life. I think that with what Drew's going to be able to do, it means a lot to him, and I think he's got these kids believing in themselves.
Matthews 3-17 the last couple of seasons.
Tough.
Yeah, they lost their last 7 games, the last 3 by shutout, so they're looking to get on. They were outscored 397-72 on the season last year, and they're looking to break that shutout streak in game 1.
McDonald, Dan Williams in his 26th year, the longest tenured coach in Trumbull County, 13 playoff appearances.
Yeah, they beat Louisville in the regular season and lost to them in the playoffs. So that'll be an interesting game to watch coming up this season, rematch.
And again, Southern went through a coaching change very, very late. 7 years they've been to the playoffs, 7 straight years.
Yeah, the second active streak currently, Girard's got the longest at 8 in their second.
DJ, you touched on it, Wellsville. Jim Salimas, Hall of Fame coach, coaching down there.
Yeah, I mean, Jim wanted that job. You know, when and I was kind of in some of the conversations about, hey, what do you think about this? Jim Salimas is one of the most successful coaches in the state history. I mean, you think about what he's done just in Columbiana County alone, over at Carrollton. Wellsville has a great leader, and I think that he's just the ticket for this program to get back on track.
Western Reserve, John Armini, in his 4th year, has improved each year. Went 3-7, 9-3, 10-2 playoff appearances the last couple of years.
Yeah, 18 of their last 19 years, non-losing seasons. The only one, 3-7 in 2022. That's a really good program.
So as we get to the final few minutes, the 3 best teams in the area will be who? I'll start it off. I'll give you some guys some time to think about it. I think Ursuline, on paper, is probably the best team again. I think Warren Harding can be, again, a team that in Division II, Region 5, very, very difficult, but I think they could get a top 4 seed. And I think Poland, I think Tom Pavlansky gets the most out of his players. Last year, the Zippolitas, Vito Camaro had breakout years, and they were very, very young. I think they're sophomores or juniors this year. I think those 3 teams, you know, I'm not going to say they're going to win state championships, but I think they could have solid years and win a couple of playoff games.
I'll go with Ursuline, I'll go with Fitch, and I'll go with Harding. I didn't cheat off your cheat there, but Fitch is a program that every year, very impressive, and they can play with the big boys, and they play a Division I schedule too a lot of times. So those are my 3.
I'm going to cheat off both of your papers. I'm going to go Ursuline. I think there's a lot of pressure on them. This is a good class for them to essentially go the furthest. I think this is the best team they've had, quite honestly, since Dan's been back, including the state championship team. I'm going to go with Poland. I think Poland, with Kamara coming back, he left there for a minute, comes back, has a leadership ability there. Zippolitas, you mentioned, they've got speed, they've got power. They lost a lot last year in size. Can they replace that? That's a question. And I'm going to go with Warren JFK. I mean, we talked about the jump that Coach Bente made from year 1 to year 2. What happens in year 3? Are they back to being that state contender? I think so.
And you got Bourbon 4th?
Of course.
Okay.
Just for you.
That a boy.
So Boardman's 4. South Range isn't even in the top 4.
Well, we say that we always talk about it
You
every
know
year.
what you're doing to me right now, right?
Yeah, but
Again, I think, do we have a state championship team? I don't think anybody knows that right now. But do we have a team that can get to the Final Four? I think there's a couple of teams that could get to the Final Four. And again, you always have that sleeper team. Last year, I thought it was Struthers. I think, they just ran, when they played Perry, it just things didn't go their way. I mean, they lose 3-0. So I think, do we have that team? I don't know if anybody knows that. I think there's the possibility of some makeup of some teams that could get to the Final Four, but that's why you play the games on the field. And I think 12 teams, and it's going to be very interesting to see if anyone gets in that top 4, how they handle the bye.
yeah, we haven't talked about the bye yet, and that's a whole new thing now with the byes.
And I've talked to coaches, and they said, look, we're going to treat it like a game. We're going to practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever. Other one says I'm going to give them a couple of days off. I don't know if there's a right formula. I do know when Canfield won it in 2022, they had a bye week 8. And Mike Pavlansky says if it wasn't for that bye, we may not have won that state championship.
And they're really not going to know. They can scout the first week of the playoffs, the top 4.
Sure.
They'll find out who they're going to be playing.
And real quick, now playoff games, you could host 3 playoff games.
Right.
Which is great. I mean, that's the way. You don't need to be driving across the state to go to a playoff game in week 11. I think that's ridiculous, from that standpoint. And most of the time, it's either you're getting your butt kicked. Let's face it. You're playing a team that you haven't played the likes of, because if we go over there to the MAC conference, man, they are the real deal over there.
Well, that will do it for this edition of The Score. Don't forget, we have other podcasts here at 21 WFMJ, and you could view those where you find podcasts. But speaking for DJ Yokley and Champ Summers, I'm Dana Balash. We appreciate you listening and hope you have a great day.